Ah, gentlemen, there you are. Come this way. I have something magnificent to show you. You see, I'm not sure how aware you've been of the progress of the airstrip project here, but we have the jewel in the crown, if you will. Look over there. They're just rolling it out of the hangar now. You know what that is? That, gentlemen, is a de Havilland Vampire, the very latest in jet-propelled fighter-bomber technology from the United Kingdom. 12 meters wingspan, goes up to 882 kilometers an hour. More importantly, it carries 4 20mm guns, 8 rockets, and 2 500-pound bombs. With this, we will establish complete air superiority within... well, I would imagine as soon as they send out that clapped-out yak fighter they got from the Soviets over in the capital. The Crown don't stand a chance once we have this. We'll be able to attack any site in the kingdom within, well, minutes, if it's already in the air.
Excellent. By God, what a magnificent machine. This surely will secure our victory. Excellent.
Yes, nothing will stand in our way now. We have no chance against this technical marvel.
Militarily, yes. But unfortunately, you can't win a war entirely from the air. Turia Valley still poses a problem. It remains the front line. We've made considerable gains. And yet, gentlemen, what is it that still stands in the way of us maintaining our traditional society there? What is it about those people? They don't seem to understand the value of the old families staying in power.
No, they have these mistaken beliefs of these newfangled ideas from outside. They want us to become something that we are not. To change us, to become like everyone else, instead of protecting that which we have built over centuries and millennia. It is shameful.
Shameful is right. What exactly do you propose we do? I mean, I have to say the executions, grisly but necessary, and of course they only affect a small minority of troublemakers, but you try explaining that to these people. All they can see is brutality. Any ideas?
I, for one, think we've been too lenient. I think there needs to be more brutality. Let us stain our hands in blood for the future generations. After all, as you said, you can't reason with these people. You just can't. So I say, we use the technology. Bomb every location, every single one, every hidey hole they can hide in until there is nothing left, and so help me God, maybe we'll have to suffer the consequences of that later, but we can deal with that later. The future of our whole entire nation is at stake here.
And we will be the ones writing the history books after all. These will be mere statistics and, well, who says that everything that happens needs to be a part of history? I mean, it's not as if that has been the case up until now. No, it is going to be our story, the glorious story of how we protected that which was ours and protected our culture.
Yes, besides, I assure you that once the bombs start falling, those on the sidelines will see sense. We can offer refuge to them. Join us now, or die with these traitors. I assure you, plenty will come to us, especially if we offer incentive.
Of course, there's the small matter of the munitions budget, but, we'll find a way. We always do. Now, shortly before the game began, I went through the little GM prep rolling things valley by valley to see the progress of the war, and I regret to inform our crown-supporting friends that Turia Valley is now almost entirely under the sway of the Yellow Sashes, who have increased their hold to 3 over the Crown's 1. The offensive that was plotted previously seems to have been pretty successful, and we can expect that will only continue with the new addition of jet-powered air power. for the Yellow Sashes.
And an emphasis on bombing.
And a heavy emphasis on bombing. Meanwhile, in Katsuji Valley, that has also now fallen entirely to the Yellow Sashes. So while the Crown holds on in the capital and a couple of key valleys, it's kind of swinging the Yellow Sashes way at the moment, which is not great for people who don't want to be living under the yoke of, well, those guys. Now, let's talk propaganda. And to quote myself in the text, don't look at it like it's a dirty word. Propaganda simply means something that must be propagated. So that can include things that are true as well as things that are, shall we say, slightly spun. Now, I was thinking about how the most appropriate venue for the story that your characters are reporting on. And one thing you can do is that propaganda can be used in the kingdom. It can sort of affect, a small, like one settlement, if it's, for example, you're putting on a film screening or, handing out pamphlets or something. Or it can be a whole valley if you have a radio broadcast. But another thing you can do is to affect quote-unquote valleys outside the kingdom. So a typical one would be just the UN, which sort of counts as one valley for the purposes of talking about hold. But I think for a report like yours, something like world opinion might be a better venue, still counting as one. Does that sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Sort of the court of public opinion. Now, when you go to try and affect an outside, a notional valley, it takes a week rather than a day to do a propaganda action. But nevertheless, I think that's probably worth doing, and we can say that the next scenes will happen around a week after the previous ones. The other thing is, I think perhaps until you physically leave Yellow Sash held territory, I don't think the photos can be smuggled out very easily unless you'd like to take a risk and give them to someone that's going through the border. But what you might be able to get at is a sort of, those very short bulletin reports that would get filed by someone in the field at this time before you can leave and write up your report in full. So that would have less impact, but of course it would happen straight away. Or you could be a bit risky and send someone with a full report or with a lot of photos, but they might get caught. It's more likely they would get caught. So what do you think you'd like to do?
I think that it would make a lot of sense to try to go big. The story that we have is very, very impactful, and I think it would make a lot of sense to get a big splash with it immediately, rather than risking that it will become buried.
Yeah, that's fine. You can send. Actually, I'll tell you who you could send if you want is Scarlet, who is planning to leave anyway. You could entrust the materials to her.
She does have experience, so yeah, that could be good.
Yes, let us send Scarlet.
Okay, and then I think the next thing you need to do then is to someone to make a skill roll. Now, of course, really this is Scarlet probably doing the skillful stuff at the border, acting casual. But I always want the players to be rolling things, so perhaps one of you or both may do a skill roll based on either concealing these items in a clever way or prepping Scarlet with the right things to say or something like that. How do you think, what's the best way for you to smuggle this stuff past the watchful eye of the Yellow Sash counterintelligence forces? Maybe
Markus could do some rolling here, because he is skilled at things like propaganda.
Yes, I might be able to brief her on, a strong cover story and basically, get her to know what to say to be able to pass through, hopefully without detection. So I suppose that would be the best way that I can support her in her journey.
Okay, I think that is fine. And you do have an aptitude for fast talking, so please go ahead and make a skill check with advantage, and let's see what happens.
Alright. I rolled a 4 and an 18, so 4 against 15.
So indeed, your pep talk works out, and the backstory. Yeah, like Scarlett's initial backstory was just going to be like, I'm just going to visit my aunt who lives on the other side of the valley or something. Like it was really nondescript. So you were able to coach her with, some details, but not too many details, because that's a giveaway as well, right? So you kind of gave her a little story, practiced it with her a few times, and then you might even, the two of you might even be able to watch her truck that she's on pass through that self-same checkpoint that you entered the valley through a while ago, and see it wind its way safely into the mountain pass that goes to the valley beyond.
Is the man with the AK-47, the brand new shiny one, is he still there?
Yes, exactly. The same swaggering sergeant that you saw before is there, but you're happy to see that Scarlett doesn't even attract his attention. She's briefly interrogated by some foot soldier, and you worry for a moment. Is that foot soldier going to call the sergeant over to ask for some advice? But no, just waves them on, and off they go.
I breathe out a sigh of relief, and yes, wish her the best of luck. I say to Doug as we look at this.
Yes, I nod, and I'm very keen for this all to go well, because it's very important. What we've discovered and the world needs to know.
It truly does.
Now, let us turn our attention to the spiritual malaise that hangs over Turia Valley. And I suppose first we need to talk about the fastnesses. So, a fastness is one of 8 strategic fortified locations in the kingdom, one in each valley. And each one of them corresponds to one of the 8 evil thoughts: gluttony, greed, sloth, sorrow, lust, anger, vainglory, and the father of all sins, pride. And while the physical structure of these fastnesses may be captured, by simple, storming it with a bunch of guys with guns, it will never really be conquered until its spiritual enemy is overcome. And because of that, the valley that it's in as well. And each fastness lies over a labyrinth or catacomb of some kind that might not necessarily be real as well. And so there are 3 kind of pillars to dealing with this as well. First of all, when you arrive at a fastness or the valley, or in a valley, or when you're addressing this matter, I have to tell you which of the 8 evil thoughts afflicts this place. And in this case, as Scarlett, I think, mentioned before, it is greed. And I'd like to ask each of you, perhaps we'll start with Doug, what is it that you notice or just perceive or maybe just feel about Turia Valley that tells you that it's greed that kind of infects life here?
Well, I suppose the thing I noticed that struck me was obviously the betrayal of Carrie, because as far as I knew, her and the others were friends, or at least companions, or compatriots, and then why would she betray that? What possible reason? And maybe it was because she was under duress, but then I remember Markus telling me that he saw her up there, happily going along with everything. What did they offer her? Was it merely money? How could something as simple as money make you betray your compatriots, your friends, if not for greed?
That's right. And Markus, what about you? What have you noticed?
Well, Miss Pernilla really did want that money in order to help help our people. It was that convinced him. It seems as if the desire for riches, for hard cash, it is quite widespread here. It is understandable on some level, but of course, it does seem to be a little bit more than usual.
Now, the 3 things that need to be handled to deal with this evil thought. The first one is the catacomb beneath the fastness, which is the GM's responsibility. Don't worry, I've got that handled. It's then the player's responsibility to choose a spiritual awakening from the list of 8 that the community needs to do in order to throw off this sin. Well, maybe I won't run through the list out loud, but if you'd like to look there and see which one you think would be appropriate, it's entirely up to you.
Perhaps bringing the people together. Bringing the people of the fastness together as a community. And sharing the riches, not hoarding them for oneself.
All right. And then the final thing that we should decide on is a symbolic action that needs to be done to represent that. But I think you've actually covered it there, Marcus. We could, perhaps some kind of a community event, say, where they no longer hoard the things they have, maybe their supplies or cash or what have you, where they actually get together and share things. Well, this to me seems like a propaganda thing. So tell me, how do you... there'll be a village close to the fortress, which was serve as the focal point for this event. But what's your sales pitch for this? You're two random, apparently tourists. That's what your cover story has been. How do you gin up enthusiasm for sharing things?
Remembering that the crown represents the future, is there something neat and cool, we think anyway, that would represent a technological something or a new way of thinking that we could somehow sell to the people? That's where my brain's going, but I'm just not sure what it could be. Like, look at this local newspaper. Have you tried local newspapers? I don't know, something like that, you know what I mean?
Ah, interesting.
Have you heard of radio plays? Yes, that's right, people are radio... You know what I mean? Like, those are all silly, but something that we could then convince the people is fun, and then subtly, that's how we get them to have some sort of community... Oh,
because they all have to contribute to build the thing to make it happen. Kind of
yes. Oh, yes. Yes. What do you think, Matthias?
Yeah, I think that would be quite nice. Perhaps we could all contribute to... The entire community comes together to contribute to build a radio station, let's say, that will serve the people with entertainment and programs that will cover the discuss the needs of the people and try to bring them together, as one. Not just... The villages are quite far away from each other, after all, right? So this will be a way to connect the entire valley together. But it will require everyone to chip in, because building a radio station is not cheap.
Why is this different from the government announcements or the Yellow Sash announcements? It's a people's radio. A people's radio. The idea is you can be anyone who comes on. And if you're a farmer, you can be on. If you're an artist, you can be on. And people who are just unelected officials are hosts. And it could be for talking. And, oh, goodness me, how exciting.
Public access radio, basically.
Public access radio!
Excellent. Now, of course, getting a working radio set may be beyond the scope of this particular gaming session, but I think as long as you've got a solid promise that that's going to show up, you can, get people to... I mean, someone must have an old barn that they can use as the studio, and, all right, whichever one of you is the most persuasive, Marcus.
Yes.
Give me a skill or strength. I think I would accept. It could be strength of personality that does this as well. Up to you.
Right. Well, I think I tend to have quite a high skill value, so let us go for that again. And do I get to roll that with advantage then, given that it is connected with propaganda, or is it just a one roll?
Yeah, I think so. This is a kind of propaganda as well. So for
right. Sure. I rolled 10 and 15 against 15, so that would be 10 against 15.
Perfect. Yeah, that's fine. I think even if you'd failed that roll, this is a plan that isn't going to not work. It's just it would perhaps be more of a headache in some fashion, perhaps a bit more disappointing. But no, indeed, the people of the village are much taken by this idea. Of course, a little bit of it maybe being part of the whole greed thing, because of course they start thinking, oh, we're going to be the we're going to be the village with the radio station. That's cool. Everyone will think we're great. But, it's not it's no good simply wishing to be less selfish. It's when they actually have to start giving things away, their time, their spare barn, their nails and lending hammers and so forth. That's when they start to actually practice a little selflessness and community spirit. And you spend maybe a couple of days in the village. I assume you're helping out as well as as a good example.
Of course.
And yes, and perhaps finding a way to send a communique back to the crown to say we're going to need a radio set. And it's all a scene of communal hard work, painting, repainting things, and sweeping out the old building and figuring out who's the best radio presenter. I guess probably you have tryouts for that, right? So people trying their best announcer voices.
And of course, looking on the darker side of things, I'm sure if Marcus informs the crown, like, hey, obviously this is a free radio, but you can totally subtly imply on the free radio that the crown radio is also still very important and very good for official news, then that might get the crown to actually be helping us out on this rather than it totally being our own venture.
Yes, I think the crown's quite happy to help, and you're right. I suspect a little editorial slant might come into this, but it's the community activity that I think really does it. So that is good. That's all done. But after these 2 days of joy are going on, the two of you are constantly reminded of the silhouette of the Turia fort above you on the little plateau where it overlooks the valley, the place that is the Yellow Sash prison. Every so often you see a flash of light that's a reflection on the binoculars of the prison guards looking out, perhaps wondering what all the hustle and bustle is down there in the little village where they just come for, snacks and occasional refreshments when they're not on duty. And what is it, in fact, that draws you to the catacomb? I mean, it's there. Scarlet showed you the secret way to go down to the foot of the cliff underneath the fortress. And you know where there is the staircase cut into the rock where the prisoners come down. And she's told you that halfway up that staircase there's a passageway into the rock. But what is it that tells you for sure? What is it that gives you a certainty that the answer is there?
Maybe on my part it's a natural curiosity combined with, what we're doing. We're trying to bring people together, and maybe there is something to be said about old traditions and new traditions, but maybe we could find something there. Maybe there'll be some sort of, relics or archaeological find, and that could bring people together. And again, maybe there is a little selfishness as well, because it's what could be down there for my camera to take photos of. Could be very interesting. Perhaps. Of course, I would confer with Marcus and wouldn't do anything without his permission.
And for me, I think what has given me the certainty that is where we must go, I think I've had dreams. I think I have been struggling to forget the things that we saw at the place where the atrocities had been committed, and mixed in with those nightmares of the horrible scenes of death that I have witnessed are visions of this place, that perhaps this is where the darkness that has caused all this, that is where it lies, or that is where it can be taken on directly.
And it's on one of these afternoons with the sun starting to set, the rays slanting across the mountain peaks to the west that ring the valley, that your old friend Tiger, steps up beside the pair of you, kind of looks in the same direction as you're looking. He says, "So, you're going to head up there, are you?" you better go armed.
Yes, I think you're right. It is a dangerous place, right?
It's a dangerous place. The journey there's no picnic either. It's it's wild country between here and there. It's not too far, but it could be risky.
Yes. Would you have access to some weapons that we could utilize? Or would you perhaps even like to join us?
I can do both, I think. Come on, come with me. And he leads you round to the back of a house. Not the one he's staying in, not the one you're staying in. Probably sensible. And there's a little lean-to shed, and he opens that. It's full of firewood and general fuel storage like that. But there's actually, under the dirt floor, there's a little buried space. Essentially, they've taken a wooden chest and sunk it into the ground. And he flips that open. And inside is a surprisingly large assortment of ordnance. I mean, nothing too surprising. A couple of shotguns. There is an old Sten gun from the war. A pistol or two, that kind of thing. But even so, it's a box full of guns and ammo, that's for sure. And Tiger takes an appraising look at the two of you and says, yeah, I think, for accuracy's sake, maybe one of you should go for a shotgun.
I look a little flustered because I, of course, have never handled a firearm in my life. So I do kind of give Markus a bit of a look and say, do you really think we're going to need weapons? Surely they're just catacombs. They don't have patrols down there, do they? At least not on the lower levels, no?
I think we will very much need to be armed when we go here, and a shotgun might be just the thing. I have some experience using shotguns, quail hunting.
That's good. So yes, you look at... He interprets, yes, your expression looking at the shotgun, that maybe you're the one to get it. So Tiger, yes, he hands you shotgun, does that thing where you break it open to check everything's fine, and sights down the barrel and puts it into your hands firmly, and then fishes around to find you a box of cartridges to take as well. And then he squints at you, Doug. He says, yeah, maybe something a little more subtle for you. And he crouches down over the arms cache and stands up with an automatic pistol. It looks like a Mauser, but he informs you, yeah, it's actually it's a copy from China, Shanxi 17. But so easy to use, right? Clip goes in here. It doesn't to show you, and you just point it where you want the bullet to go. Pull the trigger. But hang on, I've got a treat for you. You know what I'm saying? And he crouches back down over the box and comes up with a black metal tube that he screws on to the end of the barrel. He says, it's a silencer. Now, before you get too clever, don't let the name fool you. It's still pretty loud if you're close by, but it means that you can't hear it from further away, if that makes sense, right? The distance the sound travels is less, but the sound it still makes a bang. Okay?
Oh, all right, I understand. I'll be very careful. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, just don't shoot your foot off.
No, I'll do my best.
And he picks out a Sten for himself, and he says, all right, now do you want to go this evening? Be harder to spot us from the fortress if it's in the dark, or at least the gloom.
I think that makes sense. We don't want to be spotted, and in the dark, well, then we could be back by morning, and then hopefully not draw any suspicion either. I imagine by this point they probably have noticed us in the village doing things, but I like to think our cover story is working. After all, artistic journalists here to open this part of the world up. Why wouldn't we be helping the people do something? That makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, I think we must go now. I think it is important that we do this now.
All right. Let's go. And he will stop to pick up some provisions, so I think you can grab at least a D4 supply die each of water and food if you do not already have it, but you don't really have time to pick up much more than that. So if you want to add that to your character sheets, I'll roll it. Oh wait, actually I've just realised you're on foot and you're level 1, so you can only roll 2 time dice and then choose them. However, since it's a short journey, it will only be like half an hour per time dice, so I'll just roll that now, since as it happens, you don't really have a choice in the matter. You have to take whatever you roll on this occasion for the journey to the catacomb. And I got a 1 and a 5, so that means you get an hour of walking, but you also get a couple of encounters. So let's just quickly see. Well, first of all, it gets cold. So, once again, please test your strength and lose 1 HP if you fail. As established, we know that Doug has a lovely warm coat, so Doug may roll with advantage.
I roll a 1 under 12.
I also roll a 1 under, in my case, strength is 11.
So it's brisk, but you feel fine. Perhaps it's the excitement that is keeping you perky. Oh, however, I'm just going to go to the initiative deck. As you are coming down a gentle slope through some trees, quite close to the killing field where you were. In fact, you can make out the foot of the staircase cut into the rock from here. But suddenly, Tiger stops. And he says, I think there's something out there. And so you stop and you hear the wind just blowing through the trees. The leaves rustle, branches rustle, the grass swishes. You can't really see anything yet. Now, just to... it's quite a simple landscape here. We'll just say there's sort of one place at each range band. So you're currently a long distance away from the staircase, and in between there is medium and short. So in other words, basically 1, 2, and 3 spaces away from that rock staircase you were headed for. And there are trees and grass and occasional outcroppings of rock, and it's not dark yet either. It's the sun has gone behind the horizon, but there's still a glow in the sky as the stars start to come out. So I'm gonna shuffle the initiative deck, and let's see what happens next. Marcus, what do you do?
I try to understand what is going on here. What kind of foe is it that we're facing, and what will be a good way to ideally avoid getting in any kind of violent situation, violent altercation before we even reach the place we're going to.
Yeah, it's not really clear. Tiger's convinced he detected movement out there somewhere in the trees, but he doesn't know where it is, and he's casting glances all around. So, do you want to try and spot, to basically look at a place and see if you can see anyone there?
Yeah, I think I will do that. I will basically help him to try to locate where the threat is coming from. It's not necessarily something that I'm incredibly skilled at, but I do have a pair of eyes.
Yes, exactly. That's fine. So let's go to the seeing things and being seen. So you're not that good at observation, but yeah. So you can just roll, a single d20 against your skill, and I will roll a d20 for something else. Let me see.
I roll a 6 against 15.
Okay, so it's a success of 6. Sadly, you see nothing. I'm assuming you're looking just at short range from yourself at the moment anyway. Next up, J for Jones. The Jack, that is. So, Doug, what do you do?
Well, being concerned about being seen, I'm going to try the opposite and try and find somewhere to hide. Surely there must be some bit of shrubbery or a rock we can at least duck behind. Maybe if not all of us are visible, whatever this thing is will take us. Maybe if we're not all visible, this thing will underestimate us somehow.
It's very prudent, and yes, it takes one action just to put yourself into some cover, so that's a good move there. And indeed, the next card out is a red one, and therefore... do you know what? I'm just going to do an action that doesn't need a roll. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I have done it. Oh, and the next one is a red card as well. Now I am going to try and spot Markus. So Markus, please I'm assuming you're trying to hide a bit and be still and inconspicuous, so please test your skill. And with advantage, because you are in the dark, so that's fine.
14.
And that's good, yeah. I rolled an 8 as my best success, so in fact I have not spotted you. Now I've got the Joker. Would you like to start the round again, or continue with an encounter?
Let's try an encounter roll then.
It really is bitterly cold out here. Please both roll strength again.
I roll a 4 under 12.
5 under 11.
You are both fine. Okay, and now Tiger gets an action, and I think he would cast about and try to spot whatever this thing is that he's seen. So let me see. And he sees something. He says, "Oh, over there." And he points to worryingly close by, actually, just a short range away. He says, "There, look." And you can't quite see what he's pointing at yet. You have to keep taking action to peer and see it yourself. But it's a snow leopard. Maybe if we stay still, it'll just...
Goodness me, I quickly, in my hiding place, try and reach into my coat pocket, where of course I've got my guidebook that I always keep on me. Does my guidebook mention anything about the local snow leopards?
Oh yes, it goes on at some length about snow leopards. It's quite hard to read in this light, but there's an illustration. It looks it looks noble, but maybe a bit fierce. But at any rate, the next card out is a red card as well. So, okay. Again, I'm doing a thing that... I don't need to tell you about, because you can't see where this thing is yet. A for Markus. Markus, what would you like to do?
Perhaps there's a way to scare it away. So, I do have a gun that will make a lot of noise that would probably get it away. That would, of course, give away our position as well, though. So, given that I'm close to Tiger, I just go, shh. Should we just make some noise and scare it away, or...
But wait, what about my camera flash?
Yes, that's not a bad idea. It wouldn't know what to do with that. It might just run away. Why don't we try that?
Alright, the next card out is indeed yours, Doug. So, why don't you give me a... well, actually, I'd like you to test your strength on this, because I feel like it's more a kind of a keeping your composure challenge than a photography skill challenge. Although, having said that, let me see. Observation and artistic vision. No, I think that's a straight up strength test, isn't it? So please just roll 1d20.
1d20, that is 15 over 11, so a fail.
Oh no. Yes, so the flash goes boom, and right in front of you, you can see there's it seems astonishing you couldn't see it, because it's white with black markings, but of course in moonlight and moving through grass the camouflage works so well. But yes, there is a snow leopard, and its eyes flash in the sudden light as well, and it snarls. It's pretty angry, and it has an initiative action now, and it bounds towards Tiger, closing the gap to him, and that is the end of one round. Wow, hope it's a black card out first now. Let's see. It's a red card. The leopard attempts to maul Tiger, and wow, does so quite effectively. Tiger goes down with a as this leopard leaps at him, trying to claw to basically to scare you off, and essentially, so that it can run away. And it claws him pretty badly. He's got a lot of, his face has been scratched, and it's torn right through his clothes as well by the look of it. Although it also doesn't look like it's going to stick around to continue fighting. Next up is Tiger, actually, and I think he'll probably just try and wrestle this thing off him, smack it with the butt of his gun. Also dealing a tasty blow to the leopard. And Black Ace, that's Marcus. Marcus, what do you do?
Does it look like it's about to try to flee, or like it's hanging around?
It kind of looks like it's going to flee. Do you want to stick your card back in the deck and wait to see what happens?
Yeah, that would be good. If I need to fire my shotgun, I will do that, but if it will just run away, then that would be the best.
Yeah, I'll put it maybe just 1 or 2 cards down then, if that's... And, the next card out is red, and indeed that is what the leopard does. It sort of gives another snarl and then starts to bound away into the night, and Tiger is just left there going, clutching his side and going, oh, that got me pretty good.
Oh no, we need to get you back to... You need to get back as soon as... Are you okay to get back to the village by yourself?
I mean, yeah, it's not... As long as I don't run in any more wild animals, yeah. Here. You better... Look, we're right here. One of you take the sten. I'm at my own way back. It's all right, but... And he kind of puts his hand on his cheek and looks at his own blood coming from the scratch there. He's like, yeah, that's a bit of a shaving cut. Wow.
You'll have a great story to tell, though.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that great. I sort of got...
You scared it away. It ran off. It was afraid of you.
Oh, you are. Yeah, you are good at this this propaganda stuff, aren't you? Yeah, that's what I'll tell him. Yeah. Okay, sorry guys. I don't think I can come with you, but...
That's okay. We've asked too much of you already. Don't you worry. You get back and be safe.
Okay. I'll mark the way back. I'll put some cloth tags just so you don't get lost in the dark, alright?
We'll be fine. Thank you.
Alright. And he shakes your hands, each of you, and hands the sten to Doug, the one he considers the least heavily armed, and which may or may not please Doug very much, I don't know. And he... plus the ammo. And he makes his way back up the slope, and before long he's swallowed up in the darkness, and you are looking up the stone-cut staircase to where you think you can make out a pitch-black opening in the rock. How do you feel right now?
I feel a little nervous, if I'm honest. I know he had to go back, but I am already missing the guide. He, after all, knew where we were going, and I don't know what to expect. But surely, if we just keep a steady mind and make sure we don't get too lost in these tunnels, they're just tunnels. What could be down there?
Yes, well, we are together. I do find myself missing Tiger, though. He seemed very sure of himself and not plagued by some of the doubts that perhaps the two of us carry with us. But we will have to make do. We've come this far. Surely we can make it the rest of the way. And we do have weapons. That should help keep us safe. I nod to Doug. Well, it's time to go inside, I suppose.
I don't suppose, Mr. Von Aston, have you ever done this before? I know you've travelled the world a little, but this is almost like in one of those those comic serials, you know, the brave explorers venturing into the tomb.
I've read many a story about situations just like this. All of them fictional, of course. But I never imagined that I would be able to live it myself. It's truly a dream coming true, which is a bit scary. But I think we can do it, though. We just work together, and we'll be able to come back alive from this.
Of course we will, of course. Let's head on then.
The square-cut chamber that you walk into first, as you hold the lantern up or play the torch beam along the wall. This looks like it used to be, well, it is a traditional shrine, but it has been looted or broken somehow. There are niches for the statues of holy people that should be here, but those niches are empty. And beyond the shrine, where the flattened, the carved artificial wall gives way to natural rock, there is a wide, low fissure, like a mouth, and the way forward slopes gently downwards. You have to stoop to go through that mouth, but there's headroom soon enough. And after going down until, you must be below the level of the floor of the first place, you are in a broad, flat space. Rivulets of water in the cracks in the floor glitter in your light. And guarding the door on the far side is a pale, sightless figure with shark-like teeth, fettered to a loop at the base of the doorframe with a thick, rusty chain.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played Revolution Comes to the Kingdom, which was designed by Tom McGrenery and is published by Porcupine Publishing. Tom was our game master, and you can listen to more of him on the excellent Fear of a Black Dragon podcast. The music was made by Mount Shrine, who COVID tragically took from us a bit more than a year ago. Rest in peace, Cesar. The music was used with permission from Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel to get music for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Ludwig Manford, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, and Antxon for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening. And remember to support the Crown as we secure a future for our nation.